please give us your name, your title, and tell us what you do as an entrepreneur.
So I'm Ayanda Mubima. My title is, I guess, social entrepreneur, just because, that's essentially what I plan on doing for the rest of my life, and just making things work, but with a social element to it for sure. So what I do is, I'm a legal person by training. So I'm a corporate lawyer, particularly around structuring. So that's why it's also fascinating to create things using different elements and creating businesses. And then, like, out of months of work or years of work, actually seeing it manifest. So that is effectively the energy and the skill I'm planning on creating with all my different business ventures.
What made you decide to become an entrepreneur and leave the legal profession?
Interestingly, I think it's actually been a journey since I was a child. I remember joining our entrepreneurship because we went to one of those schools where they had like these extramurals or those kind of activities where you had an entrepreneurship day. And I came first. And it was my first time like actually conceptualizing an idea, trying to convince people to take up the idea and then selling it. And so it kind of stuck with me as one of those skills that I could probably pursue. But as you can imagine, back then it wasn't what it is today, where you have lots of coaches, where you actually have people sponsoring these kind of school events. It was really just local entrepreneurship day. So I went into law. But thanks, being exposed into law and the business of practice, so legal practice, also working for companies, it made me realize what is possible from just that fledgling or that seed. And then, so I've always been interested in business in that regard. And as much as I've advised businesses, I've always been intrigued by what makes up this entity, this company, this corporate, and the ideas around it. So I realized that it's not just an interest, it's actually a passion I have, because then I started seeing opportunities in everyday life of how to act and starting to connect the dots that actually building up these businesses and being an entrepreneur can actually solve some of these problems. That's how some of these problems have been solved. Like, that's why we have electricity. That's why we have solar power now. So it was just taking all that passion and that seeing those opportunities and wanting to be part of that conversation, part of that narrative of creating something for the betterment of others. And unfortunately, legal profession doesn't allow for that. It's very focused. I mean, it's a great profession, but it's very focused on helping others and supporting others create their dreams and realize their dreams. And so I was like, well, let me try work as hard as I can to do my stuff and help people.
What has been the toughest part of your journey thus far?
I'd probably trumpet to two things, right? The first one being what I've mentioned about like support and that just having that infrastructure. So I'm very big on mentorship, right? As just an individual. And so what I've found quite challenging has been having the ideas, having the passion, having the enthusiasm, but not enough people supporting me. And not so much that they're not available, but it's the connecting and figuring out how to connect to those mentors who will walk you through. So I always compare it to, again, my legal practice, because that's where I've spent the past 12 years, is in legal practice. If you decide you want to do this type of law, there, you know exactly who to go to. You have people who can walk you through the journey. More often than not, your counterparts will have a lot more support because they maybe have family members who have also walked this journey. So you have both the professional support and the personal support. In my case, you'd have a lot of people who maybe ventured into business but have not necessarily succeeded because they just didn't have the foundational stuff, which you get taught when you meet people who've done this, both professionally and personally. So I've found that at times it feels like you're walking alone, but I'm also learning that it's just knowing where to plug in. And it's that knowing that you kind of either learn through trial and error, or you happen upon someone by grace. so that's definitely been the first one, which I'm learning and trying to do better. The second thing, so essentially just getting plugged into a group of individuals who can help you walk this journey. The second thing was, like I said, having all the enthusiasm of the world and realizing that you can actually get started, but then not investing enough time in the planning. And so I discovered, because I had mentioned I started a daycare, which was designed around not just a place to keep your child safe, but a place that feels like home. Because back in the days, you could leave your child with your aunt or your grandmother, know that your child is safe, and also learning wholesome values. But they didn't have the educational aspect of it. So I wanted to see if I could merge the two, is create an educational daycare, but also have that nurturing, feel like you're leaving your child with, family. And so I started that in 2019. And having had my corporate background, I knew how to set up a company. I knew the basics of like governance and all of that. But it's a completely different ball game when you are looking at setting up a company, because there's actually a lot more, like the financial aspect of it, like the marketing, like the networking. And I found myself like 6 months into this this venture, which I absolutely love, thinking, oh snap, I actually have missed a couple of elements. So it was like, okay, calling friends and family, like just kind of feeling your way through it. So there was a lot of mistakes made, but it was mistakes that helped me grow, right? So for me, again, it just goes into there's a lot of value in taking a moment to stop, plan, consult where you can consult, and then launching. And sometimes you kind of need to do that in short order, but the fact is, I think there's a lot of value in that planning and just working out the kinks before you go live.
What would you tell yourself, or what did you wish you knew then that you know now?
You're going to see a theme in this response, but definitely you don't have to do it alone, right? I would probably tell Ayanda not to be afraid to ask for help, because the beautiful thing is that even with your friends that you've made over time, right, you may have built those relationships just because you genuinely like each other and that kind of thing, but you can also rely on those relationships to help you in business. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, right? And if you think about it, this is essentially what the great business people of the world have done. They've taken their relationships and they build a relationship even with new people, knowing and then learning how to leverage it for mutual benefit, not from a place of, well, I'm going to use you for my betterment and not help you out. So that community, which is what we understand, at least I like to think we understand about family dynamics, is that mutually beneficial relationship. That's pretty much important also in business. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. That mutually beneficial relationship is important. You don't need to do it alone, because the truth of the matter is the greats didn't do it by themselves. And so at times it's just understanding that dynamic and then learning to kind of find the right people you can trust and work with. So I definitely tell younger me to not, you don't have to do it alone, and then just stay courageous. Like it's sometimes scary, sometimes you doubt yourself, but have the courage and the grit and just the fortitude to keep going. Any
last words that you might, anything we haven't covered that you might want to just share?
Yeah, I think one of the messages I like to send is just, you really you can do actually anything you put your mind to. I say to my kids all the time, we've even got like a song going where it's like, you can do anything you put your mind to. And it sounds cheesy, but it's actually not. It starts with your mindset. It starts with just getting yourself in the right frame of mind, sometimes even getting yourself in the right environment, getting yourself in the right, around the right people.
Mhm.
If you don't have any of those, like not the right people, not the right environment, none of that, at least can you get your mindset in the right place, because that's the one that gets you there. And I believe that that's exactly how I've gotten where I've gotten, is in, by the grace of just having the right mindset. Sometimes people having to remind me of having the right mindset, because that's where it starts, because that's how you create something out of nothing. A seed looks harmless until you put it in the right environment. And once it's in the right environment with the right caretaker, it flourishes. There's nothing else you need to do. It just does what it was born to do. So I like to remind people to be that seed, that you are that seed. You have everything in you. Sometimes it takes time for you to get into the right environment, but don't lose sight of the fact that you are a seed that can do anything that you put your mind to.